If you're listening, you're a member of the Road Gang because this is Road Gang Radio.
Saddle up. We're wasting sun.
It's Jimmy Mack. It's Lindsay Lawler. It's New Orleans. It's Nashville. A show about making a living. A show about making a life. It's the biggest...
Is that a fat joke?
And the best collection of voices in trucking, transportation, and travel. Not only in this world, but beyond.
We're looking at you, Zebulon 5.
Let's turn this sucker over.
I think that's your cue, Phone Master Dre.
Indeed it is, Claire Marie, because now we get to hang out with the Braz. Isn't that right, Jimmy?
Oh, the best, like you said before, like Claire said on the on that wonderful bumper, the best in trucking and transportation, and there are few better. Matter of fact, there are none better. There are maybe a couple that might be equal, but I don't know who they are. Maybe they're on Zebulon 5. Those guys are always claiming things that really aren't true. Of course, it's Tech Talk with Robert Braswell, the Executive Director of ATA's Technology and Maintenance Council. He joins us as he does on a regular, ongoing, reoccurring throughout the universe in perpetuity and beyond. Robert Braswell is here. Good morning, my friend.
Well, good morning, Jimmy Mack. Thank you for that glorious introduction there. Very much appreciated. It is always great to be with you here on Tech Talk with TMC, whether it's in perpetuity or not, I'm not too sure about. But I can say with certainty that today we are going to be talking about the very nuts and bolts of maintenance management on Tech Talk with TMC by reviewing the latest in trends for parts and labor costs for repair and maintenance. And today we welcome back to the program one of the folks who helped us with that, and that's Jack Poster, who is TMC's VMRS Services Manager. Jack has been with TMC for more than 18 years, and he's a recipient of the Council's highest honor, the Silver Spark Plug. We're going to share today how we gather parts and labor data and how we use the vehicle maintenance reporting standards to aggregate this information from all sorts of different vocations and operational sources. But before we get started, as you know, each week we like to make a special offer available to our listeners, and this week it's our TMC Preventive Maintenance Inspection Manual for technicians. We offer it for the special price of just $25 plus shipping and handling. It is a great primer on everything you need to know that goes into a good A, B, or C level PM, whether you do the work yourself or whether you have it done. You can order by calling us at 703-838-1763 or just shoot us an email at tmc@trucking.org. Mention Radio Nemo and you can get it for that special price. Also, if you're an owner operator or a small fleet, if you got 100 or fewer power units, you can join the Technology and Maintenance Council for the annual dues of just $150. Do that today. You'll get our 2-volume recommended practices manual. That's over 4,000 pages of information on the care and feeding of just about every commercial vehicle you can think of. And there's many other good benefits too. So please call that same number if you are interested in signing up. And always at the top of the program, we remind our listeners that any recommended practices we discuss reflect the consensus of our members. We offer them as recommendations only, and everyone must first determine for themselves if they are safe and appropriate for their operation. Please remember that TMC doesn't endorse any product, person, or service, and the opinions expressed on the show are those of the individual and not necessarily the opinion of his or her company, nor TMC unless stated otherwise. And with all that out of the way, please welcome to the show, Jack Poster. Good morning, Jack.
Hey, Robert. How are you? Thanks for having me on again. It's a pleasure.
So Jack, welcome to the program. You know, this is Brake Safety Week. So right now, week of August 24th to the 30th, all over the United States and Canada and Mexico, they're doing brake checks as part of the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance inspection series. So brakes are on everybody's mind this week. And that's one of the things that we track, one of the metrics, the key performance indicators that we track in the Parts and Labor Service Index, isn't it?
Yeah, correct, Robert. We've been doing this now for several years, and we have a review kindly put out by Decisive that gives us this data, that gives us the information on the average costs for example, brakes. So for quarter 1, 2025, the average price of parts for brakes was $539. And it's interesting, it's similar to the parts, what labor is. Labor came in at $543. So for a total of $1,082 is what the average price now for a brake job is.
So your typical repair order, that's the average parts and labor cost.
Correct. And how we're gathering this is through Decisive. They have over 7 million assets that they gather this information from. It's over 300,000, I repeat, 300,000 monthly maintenance and repair events at more than 5,000 service locations. So this information is coming directly from the shop floor. It's right through when it's put into their system, it's being put out by that. And it's collected through VMRS, Vehicle Maintenance Reporting Standards.
So let's explain exactly what VMRS is. I think a lot of people may know what it is, but not know exactly what it's called. I think a lot of people would know that 013 in our industry means brakes for some reason. They don't know why it means brakes, but they probably encountered it one way or the other. Let's talk a little bit about VMRS, why it's important in collecting this data.
Yeah, sure. I know we only have half an hour, but I could keep going all day if you want to talk about it. But let me just give you a quick review. VMRS has been around for more than 50 years. It's hard to believe it's still going strong. It was developed late 60s, early 70s. And what it does, if this is in a nutshell, it documents when, why, and how maintenance is performed on equipment. It's equipment neutral. It identifies where your money is being spent. It helps control costs, and it just manages a wide variety of equipment. It's just not for trucks. It covers numerous types of equipment. So in a way, VMRS is the universal language of maintenance reporting. Now, the interesting part of this is a lot of folks are using VMRS and they don't realize it. I know you, Robert, and we both run into people at our meetings or just talking to them. And like you said, they'll say, well, I don't use VMRS, but I use something 013 or 017. Well, that's 013 is brakes and 017 is tires. So then it dawns on them that they're using it. And the reason they're using it, it's been accepted and widely used throughout the industry when it comes to maintenance software. When vehicle maintenance software took off in the early 90s, mid-90s, it was integrated into there. So like anything else, it's part of that system. You might be using it, you don't even know it. It runs behind the scene.
So to use a Star Trek metaphor, like when Captain Kirk goes all over the universe, everybody speaks English. And it's sort of a universal translator for maintenance. So the codes, they're alphanumeric codes. No matter what part number you use, no matter what description you have for a particular labor or maintenance task, VMRS standardizes that and across all the different repair orders, for example, that you were talking about, so that it all is in sort of the same language. And therefore, you can generate reports from that and do some direct comparisons. And in this particular report, we're going down to what we call the system level. You could, if you had more granularity, go down to the assembly level or even the individual component level. And a lot of fleets do that, don't they?
Yeah, a lot of fleets go down. It depends on how granular they want to get. You can go to the exact component. If you want to track slack adjusters, for example, you can go down to that level. If you just want to track brake spend, you can go to 013. Now, the next level, if you go to the 6-digit, that's the assembly level. 013001, for example, is front brakes. If you want to just use that, that gives you an aggregate of how much you're spending on front brakes. If you want to check rear brakes, 013002, and so forth. So VMRS gives you a wide latitude of how you want to use it. The only rule we have in place is we don't want you to make up your own codes, but it works in that regard. The computer understands the numbers, and it makes it a lot easier to type in a number with a VMRS code that makes some sense versus not knocking a manufacturer's part numbers, but when you put in a manufacturer's part number, there's really not a logic behind it, and it makes it more difficult and prone to mistakes when you're doing that.
So it's not intended to replace the part number, for example, on a particular part that you may have installed or replaced, but it acts more like a zip code. It's not replacing the individual address, but the zip code tells you what town and state that the address is in. And it helps you zero in and make a better report for where your maintenance dollars are being spent. If you're a member of TMC, you get these reports sent to you on a quarterly basis. We're just going to talk about some of the highlights of the report that came out in the first quarter of 2025. And it's really useful to compare how your operation is doing, whether you have one truck or 1,000 trucks, in terms of these most commonly worked on systems, right?
Correct. It makes it easier to get the information, aggregate the information, and it makes it easier for you to read the information also on a report. Plus, you can benchmark. If you are using it in a fleet, you can benchmark with another fleet. A like business makes it a lot easier to compare notes. It's like musical notes. That's the analogy we use.
So what are the systems that are currently covered in the Parts and Labor Report?
Well, at first, it started out, we covered 10 systems. And I'll just give you the top 10. Power plant, exhaust, cooling, brakes. We cover fuel system, cabin sheet metal, clutch, frame, AC heating and ventilation, and transmission. It has been expanded out to cover 25 different systems. I'm not going to go into that right now. But as this is moving forward, they're collecting more and more data. But the top 10 are the ones that we zeroed in on that have the most impact that we feel in that regard.
And do you segregate the information based on, let's say, vocation or geographic area?
Yes, we do. It's broken down into the West, Midwest, South, Northeast, and even with Canada. Canada is included also.
So it gives you an idea of the locality differences in terms of parts and labor. You can kind of see, like, if you're in the West, certain things may be more expensive, let's say, than in the Southeast for whatever reason. We've actually updated the way that data is gathered and managed in the most recent quarter. Tell us a little about how that's been improved.
Well, like I said, they've gone into 25 different systems, and a lot of this is using, which is not creeping, but barreling into our world, is using artificial intelligence. So it's been interesting to see how that is impacting and will impact the numbers and the information gathered in the industry.
So what has been the latest trend? It seemed like for several quarters, the parts and labor costs were rising, and then we had a period in 2024 where it stabilized and even went down a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And that's we're going through a period now where everything is sort of unchanged, okay? Like you said, it's slowing down. I think the tariffs are sort of hopefully leveled out, but for right now, things are seeming to be going along at a steady pace from what we can tell. Now, that doesn't mean in a couple of months that can change, but it is interesting to see where things are headed and where they've been.
There's definitely been a decline in freight hauling activity that started at the end of 2024. Has that affected the numbers at all?
Well, that could be because the trucks aren't running as much. Therefore, things are lasting a little longer. There's not as much maintenance being performed. Parts costs have steadied out, but labor is starting to creep up a bit. And that could be because of once again, we've been talking about this for years, technician shortage, technicians retiring, and also other companies being more aggressive in hiring new technicians and trying to get experienced technicians and offering a little bit more money to get them to come to work for them. So parts sort of have stabilized, but labor costs are rising a bit.
Are we finding the labor cost increases are the same throughout the different geographical areas you described earlier, or is it particularly associated with one section of the country or another?
Well, it seems like the West is the winner when it comes to parts and labor somewhat. They seem to have the highest amount of cost in that regard. And the Northeast seems to be the lowest. I can't give you an exact reason why. Actually, the lowest is Canada for some reason, but it's hard to tell in that regard. But yeah, it seems to be that the West seems to be a little bit more expensive in everything, both sides of the parts and labor.
So if you have to break down east of the Mississippi.
Good point. Yeah, at least a little warmer out there. Maybe not as much snow, but that's the best place to do it. Yeah, I mean the opposite. It's a little better to break down east of the Mississippi. You're right.
You're listening to Tech Talk with TMC. We're talking with Jack Poster, VMware Services Manager, about the latest trends in parts and labor costs. Jack, what are some of the systems that you've analyzed that have the highest quarterly increases in combined parts and labor?
Sure. Well, the highest, I'll give you a couple different ones. Aerodynamic devices, for example, fairings, things like that, rose a little over 15%. Rear-driven axles, 10%, and manual transmissions went up 6%. The automatic and drive shafts both rose almost 4%. So the only aerodynamic devices were among the systems with the highest combined cost increases in the most recent 2 quarters. So those 2 areas are going up higher than other areas in other systems.
So that's interesting. Aerodynamic devices topping the list in terms of rising parts and labor expenses. Is that maybe because those are the parts that are out there? They're getting the most abuse. They get a lot of. I don't know if that's true, but I mean they're getting a lot of. Road hazards, I suppose, right? You would think tires would be in that category too, but the aerodynamic devices under the trailer, around the fairings, around the tractor, and so forth, going down the road with the wind buffeting, you get a lot of potential for damage that way, I guess.
Oh, sure. I mean, the weather has been crazy every summer. It's like this, so that is taking the most abuse. I agree with you with tires, but for some reason, aerodynamic devices seem to be the league leader right now in what's going on. And it could be, like you said, the weather, accidents, the attachment to the trailer, to the tractor. So there's a lot of different areas that can be a problem in that regard.
And of course, if there are systems that have the highest combined cost increases, there must be systems with the largest decreases in combined costs. Which ones are those?
Well, the largest decrease is the PTOs, power takeoffs, at 11%. Steering came in at 8% and suspension at 4%. And this is interesting. Tires decreased by almost 4%. So either they're making tires better, or it could be, like you said, there's not as much traffic going on as hauling, and maybe they are lasting longer, or maybe people are using better tires. It's hard to say. But tires came in one of the lowest, only 4%. So it's interesting.
Let's split it out to parts and labor. Let's just take a look at what are the parts costs that you found that rose and fell the most.
Well, for example, when it comes to the power plant, which is the engine, and that also includes, parts in that also, anything involved with the engine, the average cost was $1,676 for the first quarter 2025. Now, transmission, which always is going to come in higher, was at $1,900, and the clutch repairs, parts, $1,800. So it's interesting that those always seem to be the top 3 areas of where the costs are, which sort of makes sense because of the price of the parts. And frame, though, recently is becoming more expensive also. Frame items, almost $1,600 when it comes to parts and when in repair. So that could be we talked about the fairing, could be more damage, maybe more accidents, more weather-related dings and problems. It's hard to say in that regard. But those are the top.
Some of these examples, you have something that you don't change very often, but when you do, it's a pretty pricey item. Other times you have a high volume item that isn't expensive, but it sure does add up. If you have a large fleet, You've got to change a lot of them over a short period of time. I know members of the Technology Maintenance Council have been reporting issues with after treatment sensors, such as DEF sensors and different components in the diesel exhaust fluid dosing system and so forth. Do you see some of those trends in the reports?
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. When it comes to, you sort of might have ignored a part that costs $30, but if you're replacing that $30 part numerous times, it adds up. Whereas with the frame or something, even a transmission, the initial outlay is a lot, but you might not be doing it as frequently. So yeah, we are seeing a lot of the the after treatment items that are being replaced on a constant basis, which will eat up your money, of course.
30, 40 years ago, it was the parts that cost the most, and the labor was the cheaper aspect in that equation. Nowadays, it's the other way around. The parts are less expensive, but the labor is more expensive. Let's talk a little bit about those labor cost increases and decreases, because that brings so much attention to the balance sheet.
Yeah, for example, filter kits. Anytime a multi-piece filter kit, almost 10% increase in labor. Axles, 5%. And another interesting one, and it could be coming back to the fairings and things like that, lighting parts went up almost 5% in labor. So it could be because it's more difficult to get to these parts now. It could be the cost of, the time involved in doing it. But those are the top three were the increase in labor for the quarter. Now the decreases, once again, interesting. The largest decreases was in steering at 5%, tires at almost 4%, and same with suspension at 4%. So it's interesting. In some areas they're coming down in labor, but some of the smaller ones that seem to be almost nickel and dime items are starting to add up.
Were there particular changes in the top 10 VMRS systems that you think were worth highlighting between the last report and this recent report?
I would say probably, I guess, when it comes to cab and sheet metal, and always when it comes to the exhaust, which incorporates the after-treatment devices, those areas have seen some big differences. And it could be, once again, due to some weather-related problems with accidents. I mean, we've had such a hot summer throughout almost the United States, some very unusual weather patterns come through causing accidents and rollovers and all kind of crazy things on the road. So that's involved in that could be the reason why these different discrepancies in costs and statistics over the year.
What's the biggest advantage to having a report like this? If you're a small operator, you're a large operator, what would you say is the take-home message for why you want to have access to this information to get a handle on your parts and labor costs?
Well, you need to know what trends are out there. You might not think it applies to you until it does apply to you, and then sometimes it's too late. So if you have an overview of the industry, which TMC gives you this in numerous different ways, you can look at it even if you're one truck, 500 trucks, or 5,000 pieces of equipment. You want to know what trends are going on in the industry so you could be prepared. And by incorporating VMRS, you could be a one truck, or you could be, like I said, 5,000 pieces of equipment. VMRS will work either way. And it's interesting, Robert, we offer VMRS paper products. So if you don't even want to use a computer, we have work orders that are available in different areas that you can do it by pen and pencil if you want. But it's important to know what's going on so you could be prepared for what's coming at you. And in this industry, there's always something coming at you. It doesn't matter if it's the weather, it doesn't matter if it's bad roads, whatever it could be. There's so many changes and so many different trends. You want to be on top of things. And that's where TMC comes in. We gather this information from our members from all walks of life in the transportation industry. It's fascinating that everybody works together on this to make everything better for the industry.
Let's go back to that top 10 system list that you were talking about. It might be interesting to just see a comparison among those 10 systems. Relatively speaking, what does parts and labor cost on average in a typical repair order ticket? Just to get an idea of, percentage-wise in a way, what's the big ticket item, what's a little bit less expensive comparing, power plant to cooling or brakes?
Well, the most expensive, this is combined, parts and labor, is clutch at $3,200. Running a close second is transmission, automatic transmissions. And coming in third is power plant or engine. Those are the top three. and on the least amount is cab and sheet metal.
Really?
So that comes in at $927 per repair, the average.
So that includes collision work, or is that just, let's say, corrosion related, or do we even know?
Well, I wish I could tell you one way or the other. We don't delve into the exact causation on the cab and sheet metal. It could be corrosion, and like I said, it could be from collision. So we haven't been able to parse those numbers that or not that granular yet. So
We've got a couple more minutes left, and well, go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to mention that brakes come in at $1,000, basically almost $1,100. So, and AC and heating and ventilation comes in at $1,000. So those are the three least expensive, still not cheap, but the least expensive repairs combined for the first quarter 2025.
I was going to say we have a couple more minutes left in the segment. Let's just talk really quickly about our SRT survey, standard repair time, because that's an important metric too.
Oh yes, we've done that now, and you're going to have to remind me. 5 years, maybe, I don't know. It's been a while, but we survey our fleet members on a yearly basis, and we give them the top 100 different repairs. Once again, using VMRS to give us that information. So it's an interesting survey that comes out, and it's from the shop floor. It's not through. It's not meant to be a pricing guide, but it's meant to give you an idea of benchmarking and things like that. And we also do that regionally. Also, we split that up too. So,
and that's available on our public-facing website, tmc.trucking.org. It's a free download. Just go ahead and look under reports. You'll see standard repair time, or SRT report, and we have archived that going back 5 or 6 years. The report today, though, is the parts and labor cost analysis for the North American commercial vehicle market. It's done in partnership with Decisive, based on VMRS system service data. And we've been talking with Jack Poster, VMRS Services Manager, about all the details in that report. 30 seconds left. Just go ahead and wrap up the final thoughts there, Jack, about parts and labor trends.
Well, like I said, TMC is the one-stop shop to get all this information, and it doesn't matter the size of your fleet. Information is the key to getting a successful operation and profitability. And TMC has done it for years, and will continue on doing that. I'm proud to be a part of that.
If you want more information on the report, just give us a call at 703-838-1763 or visit our website, tmc.trucking.org, or shoot us an email at tmc@trucking.org, and we'll be happy to sign you up as a member and give you some more information about these very valuable reports. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the segment. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jack, and we're going to kick it back to Jimmy Mack right there in the studios in New Orleans.
Thank you, sir. By the way, we're over here in the Fastport Studios, and as always, the 1,000 grows every single time Robert Braswell returns, and it will continue to grow next week. What you got cooking over there for us next, Robert?
Next week, we're going to be talking about wheel and faster maintenance with our good friend from Alcoa, Dave Walters, on Tech Talk with TMC.
Thank you, Robert. And by the way, big shout out to our friend Scat Pack's Garage and Trucking. You missed Tech Talk, but it will be reposted later on today on the tube of you where people should subscribe.